Welcome to the Enkindled Columbus podcast. You're listening to William the Lion by Iconolous. If you want to hear more from the band, check them out on Spotify or Apple Music. As always, show us some love on Instagram at Enkindled Columbus or on Facebook at Enkindled Columbus. And if you're feeling extra generous, check out our Patreon account. For as low as $2 a month, you can help support the local music scene and get your name mentioned on the podcast as a supporter. And now, our podcast with Iconolous. Welcome to the Enkindled Columbus podcast. My name's Zach.
And this is Alonso, and today we're with Matt and Marcus of Iconolous. What is up?
Hello, how are you guys doing? We're really glad to be here.
Oh, very happy to be here. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, this has been a little while in the making now. Like, what,
Quite a
3
bit.
months, 4 months probably?
Something like that, man.
Yeah, we've had this
Stuff
book
just kept
for a
popping
while.
up, you know?
Yeah.
But
well, I'm glad we were finally able to get you here.
Yeah, for sure, man. We're really looking forward to this. This is our first podcast type deal.
Yeah,
very
first,
exciting.
a
little
interview.
got some nerves going.
That's
be honest with you.
I like hearing it. I think
Okay.
that's cool. If we can provide that platform here where, we can give, local musicians the spotlight they deserve, and then I think that's cool.
Yeah,
That's
man.
what we're all
Yeah.
about.
Well, I appreciate it.
So let's just jump into it.
Yes.
What is the sound of Iconolous?
Sound of Iconolous. Well, there's a lot of things to it, right? So we have our first album out right now, Easy Company.
Amazing album, by the way.
Thank you very
really
much.
enjoyed the whole thing,
Thank
top
you.
to bottom.
Thank you. And it was at one point named after us as a band. It was basically self-titled, but it still keeps the same name. And there's a few influences in there I feel are pretty obvious. There's the Black Sabbath and
Black
the
Sabbath,
Zeppelin.
Led Zeppelin.
I could definitely hear that.
Yeah, there's a few of the older tracks on there, like Sparrow in the Gutter have some White Stripes flair to it.
And the little Black Keys.
There we go. You guys just
influence
named
in there.
everything
Yeah.
like we thought of. We were talking about it ahead of
Yeah.
time. Like, okay, we can hear Black Sabbath, Led Zeppelin. He said White Stripes. Just like that garage rock, kind of like 70s rock,
Yeah.
garage rock kind of stuff.
I mean, Sabbath is probably my favorite band of all time. So
Okay.
it's
Absolutely.
real easy for those influences to creep in there.
yeah.
And as of late, so we recorded that album back in about August of last year. And the funny thing is, by that time, we actually had a lot of new material already ready to be recorded for a second album. So we have most of that ready. And maybe a bit early to say it, but we're actually planning to go into the studio within a month.
Okay, nice.
Yeah,
That's
and
pretty cool.
the sound's a bit of a departure in that the first album is relatively straightforward. There's not too much craziness going on.
Yeah, it's a very obvious show of our
Yeah.
of our influences and what
Yeah.
we grew up listening to. And the second album definitely is more our step in our own direction and where we want to go with our music.
Are you guys fans of Rush at all?
Yeah.
Yeah.
To a certain degree, I'm not like so I think when it comes to Rush, you have people that I like Rush, and then you have I'm the biggest Rush fan ever to have lived.
Such as
Yeah,
my,
exactly.
my father.
Yeah. So it's either or with it, but we are.
Yeah, well, we're both pretty huge on Rush, and there's, I don't know, I don't like the term progressive, but there are a lot of more progressive elements in the second album.
Okay.
Okay.
More like early mid-70s, obviously, but
Yeah.
early mid-70s type progressive things. We have, it's about 8 tracks. To give an example of the progressiveness of it, the final track is about 15 minutes long, and there's no secret track or anything on there, but it's a bit of a departure, and I hope people are going to love it as much as they did the first one, because it's not as straightforward,
Yeah.
but it still remains pretty accessible, which we're proud of.
yeah,
We're
that's
very
good.
proud of.
Yeah, it's certainly
not King Crimson.
We're certainly just kind of trying to see what we could do with our influences before, but just making it our own thing.
I think it's a journey too, when you start off, because you have influences that you're into, and obviously you're going to be inspired by that. But it's always about finding your own
Right.
sound based on those influences.
Right.
So it's always going to be, each album's going to be a learning lesson.
Yeah.
But I think what's cool about it is that you can look back in the future and you can see where you were at different points in your life based on the music that
Exactly.
you created
Yeah.
from that time.
Exactly.
Yeah. And also as musicians, considering how we were with our instruments when the time we were recording the first album, even prior to that, to where we are now, and what we have done with the second album, I think it's really exciting.
I feel like you made some big improvements
Yeah.
just overall.
Definitely.
Do you
man.
think that was so from recording the first album and stuff and moving forward? Was that your goal to okay, how can we express ourselves? Like, how can we show more of our own sound? Was that kind of a...
Yeah, well, the thing is, the first album, we've been a band for over 2 years now, in some way, shape, or form. And technically a little bit before that. There were a couple incarnations where we played with different people. But Easy Company and then Iconolous, as we know it now, has been around for just over 2.5 years, right?
Okay.
And most of those first album tracks were written within the first year or so of us being together as a band. So to us, it's pretty... A lot of it's pretty rudimentary and, kind of representative of the skills that we had at the time. And I don't know if you've noticed, like, thematically, a lot of the album is very aggressive and kind of angry sounding.
Yeah.
There's a lot of themes in there. I don't like to give away song meanings, obviously, but there's a lot of themes in there of kind of like isolation and things like that. And it's very interesting, I think, because the second album, maybe you shouldn't refer to it as that because it's not, even recorded yet. But the second album is a bit more spiritually focused and
it's a lot more mature.
Philosophically focused, and I feel it represents us a lot more now as people.
Yeah.
Because it's really easy to be angry at the world when you're 15 years old.
Yeah, absolutely.
But now we're both 18.
Yeah.
We're I know it's only a couple years difference, but it's quite a lot.
No, yeah, that makes all the difference.
Time changes.
Yeah.
It changes
Because
a lot.
I even think of, because I'm about to be 24 now.
Right on.
So, when I was 18, I was like, okay, this is where I am. This is who I am. But then, like, even in this, 6 years since then, I'm like, okay, I'm a totally different person
Yeah,
than
exactly.
I was 18.
Exactly.
So
yeah, it's like we're just not the same musicians that we were when we were recording and even writing the first album.
yeah, you grow as people. You'll find new inspirations. You'll find things that, like, whoa, I would have never thought I was into that.
Well,
and now I'm
you're
inspired by
you
it.
definitely. I think, like, I think the emotion aspect that changes over time. Like, say if you're having the hardest time of your life at 18, it might be different. It gets better,
Exactly.
through time, and if you put yourself in a position where you can grow and
For sure.
progress,
Well, what message would you say you guys try to put forth with your music? There's probably not one specifically, but
Currently, the project we're working on is kind of more of a
I won't say my love life.
sad boy love songs.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's like I think we use the term 80s new wave.
okay.
Yeah, we deal with like more of themes of like.
Okay, think of this: The Cure. If you ever listen to them,
Okay.
their music sounds super happy, but the lyrics are sad. So basically,
Right.
if you look at it at face value, it's not what you're
Right.
thinking. As if, let's say, someone dealing. To me, if this is whatever it is, like someone like if they're dealing with like depression or something, you
Yes.
don't know that because you don't know what's going on in their head.
Right.
So I think that's what's cool with anyone ever making music or something like that. That's literally them telling the world what they're thinking or what they are.
Yeah, for sure. Songwriting and particularly playing those songs is really one of like the most intimate things you can do.
Oh, absolutely.
Even if you're not writing songs about, how sad you are, how angry you are, no matter what it is you're putting out there, it's this deep manifestation of your, of your unconscious.
Yeah, and it can be hard, I think, to do something like that, to put yourself out there.
Yeah.
I think can be hard at first for a lot of people. I think that's what holds a lot of musicians back at first, is just
for sure.
Certainly.
putting yourself out there, because that's scary. I mean, you never know how it's going to land. You never know what people are going to think. But like once you overcome that, that's like the first step to like, okay, now this is real. This is what we're going to do.
Yeah, it's really interesting, actually. When I was a kid, I don't know about Matt here, but when I was a kid, I was like a very, very shy child. Strangers would talk to me. I'd hide behind my parents and things like that. And, nobody expected me to be the type of person that could like get up in front of a crowd of a bunch of people and like, move that audience.
Yeah.
And not just be, cowering behind a desk or something. And it even surprised me, really. But yeah, it's really cool how much music can expose you in a way that is very comfortable.
Yeah. Well, it's like you never know what you're capable of until you do it.
Exactly.
Because I'm the same way. Like, never thought I'd be able to be on stage. Never thought that was an option.
Yeah.
And now I've done it 4 or 5 times, and I'm like, okay, this feels good. Now I'm not afraid to be up here. Now I feel comfortable to be up here.
Yeah, there's nothing I love more than playing on stage in front of a crowd.
sure.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah. Now when we
definitely-
go to shows, I think he talks about this a lot, but we go to shows and it's like,
Why
you
aren't
see
we
it in
up there?
yeah, exactly. Exactly. You see it in a totally different light. You're like, oh man, I can do that. I could be up there.
Yeah.
Yeah, And,
Exactly.
we always have the conversation with other people we've had on the podcast. Like, let's get your opinion on this. Do you think it's healthy to compare yourself to other musicians? Like, if they can do it, I can do it. Not in a bad way, but almost like to challenge yourself. Or do you ever hear something like on the radio, like, well, hell, if this is on here, like, I can fucking be on here. Like,
Honestly,
whatever it is.
Yeah.
You take this one.
Well, I definitely think that depending on what exactly you're trying to do with music, it could either be like helpful or damaging. Like we want to take our music as far as we can take it, and we've been working as hard as we can with that for a very long time. And I think comparing ourselves to other bands and that just keeps us moving forward with ourselves, and we keep practicing and improving with our personal skills and how we work together to compete with these other bands that are also trying to gain success.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think comparing yourself to the music that you hear, particularly the music that you love, is genuinely, as a musician, I feel one of the healthiest things you can do.
It's incredibly inspiring.
Yeah.
I mean, particularly like if you're in a band with someone who is musically just infinitely better than you. When we first started playing, like my skills absolutely paled in comparison to Matthew's here, and it just pushed me to be better. And I think that's really good. And I think, inherently in the music business, there should be a bit of that. There should be competition and wanting to be the best. I feel like a lot of people are afraid of the competition element. And, maybe it's not the same way it used to be. In the 70s, the competition was you walk into a record store like this, and you have, $10, and you get to decide what 2 records you want to buy. You can't do all of them. And now with the invention of streaming, it's not quite the same. But I still feel there is an opportunity cost. People decide who they're going to listen to in that moment, or whose ticket they're going to buy, or whose merch they're going to buy. And, I mean, I want everyone to succeed, but, that's... How bad do
you want it? I feel
exactly.
If you're, there's people out there. I mean, like we meet people all the time. That's like, I play guitar myself. I'm a lead guy.
Nice.
So
lead guitar is where it's at.
Yeah. So I'm a gear snob, kind of to certain degrees. I'm like tube everything, whatever.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, but when you meet guitar players, are like, oh my god, that guy's so much better than me. But he's not in a band. He's not doing what he wants to do. He's not
Exactly.
progressive.
There's a distinction between hobbyist and someone who wants to make it a career, and somebody who wants to be like that. Like, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life.
You want it in your life.
Like,
you know what I mean?
If you want it to be your job, then you need to treat it as if it's your job.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, personally, I feel everyone in one way or another wants to do music. I mean, I feel that's why...
Or be creative and whole, as a general.
I feel like that's why, Keanu Reeves has a band. That's why Johnny Depp has a band. I mean, these guys are incredibly accomplished people, and yet they're playing out in bands. The Stranger Things kid, Finn Wolfhard, he has a band and things like that. So I think, everyone understands, even if they're not consciously aware of it, how powerful music is.
It's the universal dream.
Yeah.
Yes.
I like that. That's probably going to be the name of the episode there.
Yeah, the universal dream.
Yeah.
So, I mean, what do you guys feel? What are the pros and cons to being a two-piece? Because, I'll say right up front, I love, there's something about, two-piece bands or just small bands, 2-3-piece bands. It's, incredible what you can do with so little
and
people.
You sound,
I
you sound
love
big. That's what I think is cool. It's a massive sound.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's cool.
With the two of us, Marcus has been my best friend for years and years. We met in 6th grade, and we've always been close with each other. And playing music, I feel like that connection is really strong. We work very well with each other on stage. We can flow in and out of songs on a dime. So I think that's definitely an advantage of
so you
being
got
a
just
two-piece.
the chemistry between you guys.
Yeah, and I think if we were to add a third person, say a bass player, right? For a while, it's a bit of a tangent. For a while, we were looking for one, and we kind of realized, the chemistry we have, we shouldn't be going out looking for that. If someone approached us and they were like John Paul Jones, then they'd be in the band.
It's like you got to find that.
Yeah, but I mean, it's exactly what Matthew said. I mean, we improvise a lot live. We both consider ourselves a live band.
Yeah.
We kind of evoke Led Zeppelin and even the Grateful Dead. Probably more so the Dead than Zeppelin.
Just with your live show aspect.
In our improvisational manner, and that we move around a lot and it's very high energy, which the Dead is not high energy.
Yeah.
But we kind of take songs to places that not even we know exist.
Yeah.
We don't play with set lists. We don't do anything like that. We just do that, and I think it's very interesting. One thing that's a bit unfortunate is because we're not like Zeppelin yet. We're not the biggest band in the world right now. It's kind of unfortunate because that's a staple of our shows, and yet people don't really realize what's happening.
Yeah, no, but it's hard. You have to get out there first for people to know that your shows are that crazy.
Right.
That there's something new to that.
Right. Like if we were to play, a 20-minute rendition of William the Lion, and we do all this like crazy in and outs and calls and responses and all that stuff,
between
no
songs,
one knows what's happening.
Yeah.
They just think, oh, that's part of the song. Good song, but not like they don't understand. And I would love people to understand.
Well, it'll make all the difference.
Like we talked about it earlier. I was like, is this like a continuous piece of work here, or because you're talking about secret tracks and stuff like that, and that's cool that you put that much thought into an album. We're just trying to write 4 songs and just show people. We don't even have like an idea.
I mean, there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, and I think you're
definitely just 2 different approaches.
Yes, and it's a sweet approach because you don't. Yeah, I feel like we don't have that nowadays. You know what I mean?
That's exactly kind of what we think. Like a lot of times back in the day, you would see bands release things very consistently. I mean, Led Zeppelin. I keep saying bringing up Zeppelin.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard. It's hard not.
There's good reason.
Zeppelin freaking rules, dude.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, you look at Led Zeppelin's discography, right? And you have Led Zeppelin 1 and 2 in '69. Right. 3 is in '70. 4 is in '71. I mean, like you have 4 of the
Black Sabbath.
Yeah, you have 4 of like the most defining rock and roll albums ever released within the span of 2 years. And these bands were pushing this stuff out and working hard to do that, and we kind of want to bring that philosophy back. Well,
I think if anything, bringing that sound back, that's something that I have been like dying to hear. In a modern band.
Yes.
And you've got Greta Van Fleet, but they're kind of more. They're just kind of like a mirror image of Led Zeppelin, but you guys are kind of doing. You're doing more than that. You're not just You're not trying to be a Led Zeppelin cover band with quotes around it.
We're trying
you guys
to
are like
make our own thing. We're trying to build on the music. We're trying to feed into it rather than just mimicking.
Yeah, and I love that because I haven't heard any other band that sounds like you guys from within the last 30 years.
Well, thank you.
Which is also crazy. You guys being 18. Not like I'm a whole lot older.
Right, yeah. He sounds like an old man.
Yeah. I sound like the old guy here. Not like I'm like a whole lot older, but it's like you guys sound like a band, 30 years prior to where you are now, 40 years prior to where you are now, and that's incredible that music has that ability to make it that far.
Right.
This is the part of the podcast where we play the live session, presented by Craft and Vinyl, performed by Iconolous.
Hello, we are Iconolous, live at Craft and Vinyl with Enkindled Media, doing an acoustic rendition of Sort Yourself Out this evening.
Live your life or kick and scream. Tell his wife now you're gonna crush her dreams. Our children are playing without their pa. I really hope that cash was worth your bombs. As question. I just want to know, do you really care? Or do you just want to pass go? Don't take my eyes to hide your cries. I'll stop trying to know if you just let me go. And our trust is left broken. As we rely on your token.
Back to the podcast.
You were talking about Zeppelin, right? How
Yes.
every year they were releasing an album, then Black Sabbath would hit the scene. Back then, that genre of music was changing into something heavier and heavier.
Yeah,
and then
yeah.
we got into thrash, you got into hair metal scene, all that. Do you think now, in the time we're living, you know, with us being kind of younger men, do you think with our age and the music we're playing, you guys are playing, I should say, do you think can you be innovative anymore with it? Has it stagnated?
100%. I think you can.
Absolutely.
Really? And this isn't me challenging. I'm just asking. Like, just
No, it's a wonderful question.
yeah. And why is that?
I think personally you can because, well, first off, I mean, the fountain of music can never be run dry, I believe.
Yeah.
But I think particularly now, it's actually kind of the opposite of what most people would expect. I feel it's a lot easier to innovate because now you have constant access to all these genres and bands and all these different ideas. And I feel because of that, it's very easy to incorporate it into your own thing. We've never wanted, like you pointed out, we've never wanted to be like a cover band or a tribute band. We wanted to take those ideas of the giants that have influenced us and stand on their shoulders and take it somewhere new, right? So I actually do think that nowadays in 2020 that it's actually a lot easier to innovate than it probably was back in 69 or 70.
Yeah, music is more available now than it has ever been. So it's really easy for us to listen to newer bands like Tool and get inspiration from those types of bands, and also listen to like great pieces of music from just like generations ago, from like Ludwig van Beethoven to like Vivaldi, classical pieces, mixing that in with some more contemporary artists.
Yeah, we've been very heavy into classical music recently.
Yeah.
We've been listening to that very heavily.
Yeah.
But yeah,
it's a cool inspiration just because of the technicality behind
Yeah.
it. It's like nothing else.
For sure. It can be, abysmally dark and horrid and incredibly otherworldly beautiful.
yeah.
I think classical music doesn't get enough appreciation. That's, I'm wrong generation.
I feel like I almost feel like
That's a good
instrumental. I almost feel like instrumental music in general doesn't get paid enough attention to. Like
No, it
jazz
definitely
and
doesn't. Like,
classical,
Right, yeah.
like Animals as Leaders is a modern band that does like all instrumental. They're more of a, I guess, gent kind of music, but
Right on.
It's stuff like that. It's like it's so cool what you can do without the human voice because
Yeah.
that's like a new element to your
Yeah,
music. It's
no,
like how can we
music
portray
is
a
a
message
language with or
without
without
words?
lyrics.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's really cool. So that kind of bounce off of where you were. I think what's cool about, we were talking about being able to innovate with an older style of music. What I think is funny now is that it's kind of gone full circle, and almost innovating rock music is just going back to the roots anyway.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because
Exactly.
like it's gone so far that there's a lot of synths in rock now, and there's a lot of different stuff, and then you're taking it back, and it's like, wow, these guys are innovating by not doing anything extra crazy. It's
Right.
like you're going back to the roots, and that's innovating on its own.
Seeing what we can do with just a guitar and drums.
You're going back to the basics, but
I do-
creating something new with that.
But I do think that is a very powerful tool.
Oh,
I
absolutely.
think if you stop there, that's not enough. But I do think that kind of reintroducing these sounds that maybe people were missing can actually be very powerful. I know a lot of people kind of trash on Greta Van Fleet. I'm actually a fan.
no, I like
Oh,
their
yeah,
music.
they're good.
I like
They're
their
good.
music.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's good to hear. I actually am a fan, and I would agree that maybe their debut EP was a little
Yeah, that's
not
that's
the
kind of
most
what I'm
original.
working with.
But then again, I mean, if you look at our first album, Easy Company, there's parts of that are very clearly derivative. I feel everyone has to start somewhere, and I think that even if it's not the most original thing in the world, I think it still does a lot of good. And I mean, that's very obvious. I feel in that you're getting this resurgence now of these Zeppelin-y songs or these hard rock things like that. It's getting big again, which is cool.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's exactly what
But
I want to hear.
it does need to be taken somewhere.
Yeah.
That's for sure. And that's exactly what we're trying to do.
Yeah, and I guess let me reiterate for the listeners here because you made a good point. I am a Greta Van Fleet fan. I guess to fix my comment here, I guess the best way to word it is that
Do not crucify him.
they're not.
Don't cancel culture.
They
right?
are very to set the record straight. They are very like when you listen to them. Obviously, like his vocals are inspired by Robert Plant.
Yeah, for sure.
And so it's like that. That's where I was going with that. I guess they're not like a Led Zeppelin ripoff band, but they brought that sound back. That is like it's unmistakably sounds like Led Zeppelin.
I will say though, they are very talented, man. I saw
absolutely.
this.
Oh, they're super
I saw this performance. They were playing "Lover Leaver, Taker Believer," I believe, which is like the longest song on their actual like full length album, Anthem of the Peaceful Army. And they jammed on it for like 25 minutes.
Yeah.
And being a band that jams, I know that can be pretty hard to do. And I just, ever since I saw that, I no longer doubted them as musicians in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah, no, they're live. I mean, they sound just as amazing live as they do, in their studio recordings. Now, I haven't seen them live, but I've watched a lot of their
neither have
live
I.
performances, and it's like they sound exact, if not better, live than they do on their studio performances, which is incredible.
and
Any
I
band
feel-
who can do that is,
Yeah, that's something you want to strive towards for sure.
yeah,
For
absolutely,
sure. I mean, there's only a handful of bands really throughout history that can do such a thing. I mean, Queen did that.
Yeah.
I feel Zeppelin did that. Though, you will find some people that disagree with that, but I think that's, every band has a bad show.
Yeah, of course,
but,
especially when your career is, as long as some of these other bands. Like, you're going to blow it at least one
Exactly.
time.
Oh, I think, and this is like, we could have a whole podcast and talk about like, the most innovative band. I truly believe,
Easily.
like, I think Led Zeppelin probably is up there and like the most, like, if you look at all members, everything they did, every song was different. Like, they just did
100%.
Yeah, they did everything
for
different.
me, it's between Led Zeppelin or Pink Floyd.
Pink Floyd.
So two different, they're two different spaces.
I don't even like
exist in
David
the exact
Bowie,
same
but David
space.
Bowie was someone else that I was like, oh my gosh, everything was different.
Okay, I have a question for you. I've actually never been huge into Pink Floyd, but I've kind of been meaning to listen for a while. Do you have a good place to recommend, like, starting?
If you were to start somewhere, and this is just me personally, and this, of course, I'm sure there's going to be a million people that disagree with me or will lead you in other directions.
Always
The
will
Dark
be.
Side of the Moon is their, one of their biggest out. The Dark Side of the Moon or The Wall are
Okay.
two good places. I'm a big fan of Dark Side of the Moon because the way that album is set up, and a lot of their albums are very, they're theme based.
They roll into each other, each track.
Every
Concept
song,
albums,
the first
it's
song
pretty cool.
starts with a part of the ending of the last song
Oh, wow.
on the album. So
Wow.
like the way that it works is like you listen through the whole album, every song flows together, or you'll get like the fifth song on the album comes back to like the chorus of the second song on the album, and it all
That's very interesting.
It's trippy the way it all just flows together so perfectly. But then the album ends, and like you could restart the album again, and it would just play over in the exact same cycle.
That's incredible,
But
actually.
it covers like multiple topics. It covers like life, it covers death, it covers money, it covers time. Those are all different things.
As you name the song, like you're
Yeah, those are all song names too. Money and time.
I got into Pink Floyd because of Zach, and like when I first listened to it, you realize like, oh man, there's a whole another level of thinking that's going on. Like,
Especially
of
like when
thought
you-
that's put into this.
Especially when you think about like the time period. You're talking late 60s, all the way up into mid 70s, 80s. The technology that they were working with to do what they did is insane.
Yeah.
When you listen to the final product,
sure,
you're like,
man.
how is that even possible? Like, artists would struggle to do that now, and these guys were doing it
Yeah.
before.
There's a really-
before anything was even thought of.
Yeah, there's a really interesting little thing on Strawberry Fields Forever, right? Where, the Beatles definitely pushed a lot of things you could do in the
They
studio.
were also crazy innovators.
Yeah.
Yep.
And there's actually this really cool. I saw a YouTube video on this a while ago. It's really interesting. If you've probably noticed, everyone's heard the song a million times. In the intro, the pitch suddenly
I've seen that
shifts down.
same video. I know exactly
they
what you're
literally
talking about.
stitched two tapes of two different takes at different tempos together. I think that's so cool.
Yeah.
That's so interesting.
Which is it goes back to the technology they were working with was so, artists today, if you've ever been to a modern recording studio, it's like,
Everything can be done digitally.
Yeah, everything could be done. It's so much easier than it was back then where you had tape reels and it was like, you've got to nail it, or, unless you're a huge band, you're not going to get another take.
Yeah, it's easy.
This
I mean,
is what you get.
You miss one drum hit, and you're just like, oh, I'll just slide that over.
Yeah,
that's easy.
Yeah, nowadays you could just drop right in another drum hit and you're
Exactly.
good. But back then it's like you had to nail it. So it's like I have so much respect for bands.
That'd be hard, man.
Yeah, for bands from the 50s all the way through. I mean, even in the 90s, it's still the technology wasn't even
I'm
there.
still
So a lot
afraid of the
those bands-
metronome, dude. That's all we have this conversation probably every episode is like when we first hit the studio, the metronome messed me up, man.
We didn't even play to
Yeah,
it.
we
How
didn't
is
use
that?
It's hard.
Yeah, I can
well, because like it's cool when like I almost would appreciate to like just go in with the band and lay back and do it.
Right.
You know?
I've noticed, like, even before, like, earlier today, we were working on some of our music that we're trying to release within the next month or so. We were, getting some stuff done, and, I was having trouble. Usually, I'm the rhythm guy, so usually I'm pretty good at playing to a click for the most part.
Right.
But I was having the hardest time, and I'm like, I just need drums.
Yeah.
So I went in, got the drums laid out how I wanted it to record over, and then it was no problem. Then it was like, okay, perfect.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's like trying to record over a metronome is just like...
Yeah. Have you guys tried to just do like the whole live thing, no click or anything?
I think we tried it with because we have another group. It's kind of like punky.
Okay.
We tried it. That's the type of thing. It's kind of a nightmare for the sound engineer because we suck. Like there's a lot of there would be a lot of stuff to fix
for that project. We weren't prepared,
Right.
Like we
Okay.
should have been,
Yeah.
Which is a huge thing when you're going into the studios. To
Yeah,
be
for sure.
prepared
Yeah.
and know the songs the way be able to nail them live before you can go in and record them. And we kind of did it backwards. We were early on to things, and we're just like, okay, well, let's go get these studio takes. Let's go get our songs. recorded, and then we'll work on using those recordings to promote our live performances and stuff. And
Right.
that was kind of the backwards way to go. So now we've kind of taken a different approach for
Right.
things.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of how it worked back in the day, I mean, like, bands used to, like, tour, like, for the album, in support of the album.
Yeah.
And now bands tour in support of, like, just their living.
Yeah,
I mean,
so-
touring,
yeah, now my
touring is now
approach-
their livelihood.
Yeah,
Exactly.
now my approach is totally backwards as to how I would have done it a year ago. Now I like to have the song fully written, every part that I know that I want there, because I'm an audio engineer also, so I kind of like, I sit down and just kind of, the DAW is my home.
Right.
So,
The doll.
so now I like to have things already fully written. I like to have all my pieces put together, and then
Yeah.
I'll go in there and try to record everything as one take, because I'm not a fan of like chopping bits and pieces and trying to
Yeah,
Frankenstein
neither
a
are we.
song together. Maybe for demo purposes, sure. But if I'm
Mm-hmm.
going to actually put something out, at least for myself, from now on, I'm like, I need to know the entire song. I want to have the whole layout.
Yes.
Just so, it'll sound just as good live as it does when I'm recording it right now.
Yeah. I mean, we've only recorded the one time, really. But I feel recording without a click, like, as long as you have all your stuff, like, really tight. It's
Yeah, exactly.
invigorating.
It sounds like the way you
I'm
guys
sure
have
it's,
it set
it's
up.
more of an organic feeling. I'm
Yeah,
sure.
when
Naturally.
we recorded our first album, we definitely came in well prepared because we had also been playing with those songs live for a few months at that point. And recording live was definitely a really good option for us, especially because of the nature of our music and how like we need to be like communicating with each other and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think if you guys had done it any other way,
Yeah, it would have
it would be, it could
been a
almost
struggle.
pretty
It,
different.
it would just,
I feel.
it wouldn't be the same thing. It wouldn't be the same product at the end of the
yeah.
day.
Yeah, and honestly, okay, I just want to take a second. Since we're talking about the recording process, I want to shout out the
Please.
man who
That was
helped
where
us
we were about
record
to
it.
jump
Yeah,
into.
yeah.
Yes, I want to give
It's a
him the
good
credit
segue.
he is due. So we recorded at Vaughn Music Studios in where was that?
It's up Dublin area, I think, or Upper Arlington, maybe.
Arlington.
Okay,
Something
yeah.
like that.
On the
and
river.
our audio engineer is this man, great guy by the name of Matt Hagberg. So I just want to say, anybody out there who wants to record something, go to Vaughn Studios, Matt Hagberg. He's incredible.
Yep.
And it was also cheap too, man. I mean, we recorded
Yeah.
the whole album for like under $1,000. When we
Okay,
did
yeah,
late
that's-
night sessions, but
Yeah, but no, I mean,
wonderful
that's,
guy.
That's pretty cool. Yeah.
We're
yeah,
looking
you guys-
forward to maybe returning.
There
in
you
a
go.
month.
Nope.
Kind of talking about issues in recording or whatever it is, technology and whatnot, segueing. All right, so when it comes to recording or it comes to being, how old are you two? 18, right?
18.
You said?
Yeah.
Does that bring it their own problems when you guys are trying to play live at bars? Has every place ever let you in?
It hasn't caused problems yet.
Yeah, not yet.
Okay.
Actually, well, I think there was one bar that we played at. We, playing at bars, whatever, you got to do it. But
Yeah.
there was this one bar we were playing at, and they required us being over 18. I think I had turned 18, and he hadn't
I
turned
had
18
not,
yet.
but
and
they didn't need to know that.
Yeah, we just kind of just pretended he did.
Sure.
They don't need to know. Let's not tell them. But yeah, for the most part, it's never really caused any problems.
Good.
I don't think the age thing has actually caused any issues at all. I'll be
believe
honest.
so.
I think it actually does some benefit because people see us and like, you guys are doing this at 18.
Yeah, no, that's really cool.
Yeah, that's cool. And then I guess with the when you guys first hit the studio, what was the hardest? What was the challengingest thing? I think that's a word.
The most challenging.
Most
thing.
challenging.
The most challenging
Well,
thing.
I feel like it was really just knowing how the process worked and what we needed to do when and how we needed to have our gear set up. That was probably the most challenging part. But once we were set up and comfortable playing through our songs, things definitely went very smooth.
Yeah, there was also kind of a trend on our first album where the kind of improvisational essence of our live show crept its way into our album.
Mm-hmm.
And there were a lot of, segues and things like that didn't have set times they happened. So we would kind of just have to go with it. And that was a bit of a problem because in the studio, I'd be like, okay, I have to play this riff 4 more times, 3 more times, 2 times.
Yeah.
And then I have to remember that when I, dub the vocals later. So for me, that was the hardest part.
Okay.
Because
Yeah, that makes sense because
It's just-
studios like to have things very organized.
Mm-hmm.
Here's the verse, here's the chorus. This is going to transition in like this. But yeah, if you're doing a lot of improv, I could see where that could kind of
Thankfully now
make things
our-
a little challenging.
Thankfully now our song composition is a lot more planned and set. You know.
Yeah, well, I think it's good that you also that you do the improv stuff for your album too. You know, at least at least within at least a little bit, because it helps things flow together. It helps. It adds something special. I think a lot of things that there have been entire songs that like just happen to be that way, and it's like they wouldn't be as iconic if they were played the way they were written. Even screw ups that ended up in recordings that are like, they're just some of the most iconic things of all time.
The little mess ups in recordings are some of my favorite things ever. There's off the top of my head, there's one in Iron Man by Black Sabbath where you can hear Iommi just like flub the open string on accident. It's wonderful. I love that stuff, man.
Yeah, that makes all the difference. I think it's cool that you guys, you go in the studio, you do your own thing. You're not compromising your music. Yep. You go in there and just do it how you would do it live. I think that's cool. That's something I genuinely respect. That I think that's awesome.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, man. That's pretty cool. And I think maybe bringing things to a conclusion here. What's the future for you guys? What's everything looking like?
Well, we're gonna continue to work as hard as we can with this. We're gonna play as many shows as we can. And well, our sights are set on the top.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Nothing less, man. I mean, we want to, without exaggeration at all, we want to change the world, in, as I've said 100 times probably, in the way that all our influencers did. We want to connect with people. I feel nowadays people are kind of like embarrassed to enjoy themselves, and you go to a concert and people kind of just stand still.
Crowds
a lot
are
of the
just
times
standing
and things like
still.
that. And we kind of just want to bring back music as that like universal language that everyone can relate to. We want to, like I said, change the world, man.
Well, I think that just having that mindset, and especially as dead set on it as you guys are, I think that's what will set you apart from other artists.
Yeah,
I hope so.
I agree. I think that's pretty rad. It's very, very well spoken. You two, I like it. It's cool.
Thank you.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, I think so. What do you when people listen to your music? What do you want them to hear? What do you want them to take away from it?
I want them to hear whatever they hear, man.
Yeah,
cool.
That's that's exactly the reason we don't give away meanings.
Okay.
It can mean anything to anybody.
Yeah, I want them to have their own experience.
Yeah, even our name, like it has a specific meaning to us in a way that it came to be. But if you were to ask me what Iconolous means, I'm not going to tell you.
Yeah,
I'm not going to tell you. I want people to hear their own thing.
Yeah, no, that's cool. Because you give people the option to make whatever they want out of your music.
Yeah, exactly.
You made the music, and they make it what they want to make.
Yeah, and if they dig, they'll find the meaning that we intended.
Yeah,
but that's not necessary.
Right. Yeah, no, that's cool. You know what? You guys are the first people I think to have said that, or to have had that mindset. I think that we've talked to so far. I don't recall hearing anything like that from anybody else.
Right.
So that's cool. That's very unique.
Well, thank you. We like to be unique.
Now, where can people find your music?
Well, it's up
Anywhere,
on Spotify,
really.
Yeah, YouTube.
It's up on YouTube. We just actually made like the Iconolous YouTube channel. Before it was like the auto-generated thing.
Okay.
And we put it up on there with every song has the lyrics in the description. So if someone wants to go check out the lyrics, that's on there. But it's everywhere: Spotify, Google Play, Apple Music, everything.
Nice.
Awesome. Well, thanks again for your time today, fellas. We really do appreciate it.
Appreciate being
wanted to
here.
thank you guys for having us on here, man. I mean, I remember when the first album, when we announced it coming out, the way this kind of all came to be, you guys put it on your story, and I commented on it, and I was like, wow, thank you guys. It's really cool. So, again, thank you guys. That's really cool, and now we're here because of it, and it's been a great time.
Rad, dude. Well, thanks again.